Completed install. You can see the sod's all put back. There is a line that comes from the sump basin way back up there by the house all the way out to the lake. Let's take a look and see what we've done here.
Hey, good morning. Chuck here at Untitled Drains. Today we are in Melbourne, Florida. Not Melbourne Beach, but Melbourne, Florida. And we're on an interesting project. A little bit sophisticated, you might say, just because there's a lot of things in a very narrow area to work. Let me show you what we're going to do. So inside this little courtyard, they're going to put some pavers in here, and the sod's been removed. You can see the real problem here, though. If you look, it's quite obvious. This is the air conditioner condenser. This is the drip. Look at that. It's just constant. This is a problem not only in Florida, but in all homes, especially in the South. Look at all that water. It's tremendous. But more than that, that's one problem. This area definitely floods from that. But over here, we've got two downspouts, one from the lanai. We've got one from the lanai and one from the house. And you can see how long of a run that gutter is. All of that water is coming down here. And what they did was they just brought them out and they just deaded into the ground. So that becomes just totally saturated. Beyond that, we've got the channel drain. See the channel drain for the pool? That's also discharging here, and you can see all the water down here. So we need to take care of this area. What we're going to do is put a sump basin in over here where we started with the shovel. We'll go ahead and put a basin in there. We're going to bring these two lines and the channel drain over to the sump basin. From back there where the catch basin is, we'll bring a line back also to the sump basin. The sump pump's going to lift it up. We're going to go under this walk, through this gravel landscaping, and out to that lake. It's really a straightforward job. It's just very tedious. Something that you guys could do yourselves, and it just takes a little bit of planning. Not difficult, but we'll go ahead and show you what to do. So I've started to go ahead and pull these stones back. She wants to save the stone, which is normal. Pull off the stepping stones. You can see the stepping stones over here all the way back. And now I'm just going to lift up the landscape fabric. I've got to make a couple slices in here to get around these irrigation heads. And we'll just pull all the gravel back and we'll have an area to trench. This is 1.5 inch pipe, so it's not real deep, but it still has to be an area where we can set dirt, trench, set dirt, and then cover it back up. So you do need room to work. Very tight quarters here. She tied back the palms, but you can see there's still a lot of plants to be careful of through here. And she doesn't want us to disturb those, but of course we'll do whatever needs to be done. If we need to pull one, then we need to pull one.
So out here in the landscape bed here, right along the lanai, you can see it's just really slow going. Take your time. And we don't want to make a mess. We don't want to destroy the screen. My shoulder's right up against that screen. It's a very tight little spot right here. And you just have to take your time, dig slowly. Always work backwards. That's the real secret here. Always work backwards. Remember I said this is kind of a tedious little installation, but I promise you that you can do this. And you can do it all by yourself. You'll notice that I'm just digging along here. I do have one man. I've got Chuck up there and he's working in the front, but you can do this. This is not a hard installation. It's just slow going. Next we're going to try to tunnel that sidewalk. That's probably the hardest part of this job, and it's just because the only reason is because there's no room to work. Take a look. I've showed you how to tunnel many sidewalks, and this is no different than those. The difference is that there's no room to work here. On this side, I'm right-handed, so on this side it's not so bad. I'm going to try to tunnel the majority of the walk from this side. This is a little bit larger than a normal walk, but it's no different. Remember, we're scraping at the bottom of that concrete, and then we come back and we pull out the soil. Work as far as you can on one side, then switch over to the other. The other side's a little bit more difficult for me because I'm right-handed, and now I'm doing it kind of backwards with my left shoulder. But in less than 5 minutes.
So you can see we went all the way under. See the water came through. This is just 1.5 inch pipe. We've already got our trench dug. We'll go ahead and lay some 1.5 inches, and we might need to pump this out, but looks like Chuck's got that. Where we're gonna put the sump basin in. We'll hook up these 2 lines and the channel drain. Don't forget, we got a channel drain. This is what's dictating the depth of this pipe. This must drop down and then trench over to the sump basin. Okay, so we have our discharge line trenched, and tough excavation because there's not much room to work here against the screen, right up against the foundation of the pool. But we've got that trench. Next, finish up that sump basin. You can see where Chuck is back there. Finish that up, connect the downspouts, finish our line out to the water. We almost got this.
Here in Florida, when we dig down to excavate, whether we're putting in a sump basin here or whether we're putting in a French drain or a downspout drain, we always find irrigation. Here we have to move this line in order to get our pit down in the ground. We also noticed that there was an electric line right there, so we had to move the electric line as well. These are common things that you find digging underground, whether you're in the north, whether you're here in the south. You really don't know where the irrigation is, and they mark all the utilities, and that's great, but they don't mark the irrigation. This line was under pressure. In other words, we had to shut the water off at the main in order to reroute this section of pipe to go around our sump basin. Not a hard repair. You know, you've got parts, you can always go get them. We carry them in the truck. Have the all-in-one glue. That means it's got the primer built into it. Real simple stuff, but it does take more time on your install, and you're down on your knees crawling around. So you have to remember that you're really spending a lot of energy to do all these things. A lot of people ask, why do we put that sump basin up by the house? Well, it's because of the electric. If you look back through this little clip, you'll notice that there's an outlet right above the pit. These people were lucky. They don't need an electrician because they've already got a power outlet. One thing you should not do with these pumps, especially our Zoller M98, is to hardwire that pump. Yes, you can, but because the pump could go bad, it's so easy to unplug the pump and swap it out. Why would you want to hardwire?
So if you look at this little excavation site, what makes this a difficult install is, number one, it's so tight. See how much room we have to work in? So we need a place to set soil, and you can see you run out of room really quick. Number two is they've got the drip line from the AC creating this flood, and you've got to work through that. So we've got our sump basin installed, and you can see how deep. This is the inlet line from the downspouts. It's quite deep because it starts back here. It starts clear back here. We've got to go around this post and come over and run downhill to the sump basin. From the sump basin, we're going to lift that water up. It'll come out the side all underground and then discharge down through here under the walk, and then on out through that trench. We'll still have some more to work. Cut that sod, trench it all the way out to the lake. But again, what makes it really difficult is there's no room to work here. So if you're going to do it yourself, do one step at a time. I always suggest you get the sump basin in first. That's the most important thing. Get that in, that's the heart. Because then you can set your pump up temporarily if you need to and just pump it out. If it rains or whatever, if this floods, it has a place to go. So pump goes in first, set that up. Next, I would do this last and do what we're doing here. We need to get those downspouts and that channel drain. Remember, the channel drain dictates how deep this inlet line is. Hard part, tunneling the sidewalk. That only took me 5 minutes, and I'll show you that too. But that took 5 minutes. It's just hard because there's no room to work. Okay, you can kind of see what we're doing here. Maybe. we've got to adapt from the channel drain to 1.5 inches. We've got this lanai downspout that comes down, and we have the house downspout that comes down. And you can see what someone had done. Can you see this is perforated? You see the holes in there? And it goes down into the ground. It just goes nowhere. And that's why you can see all this water. There's no way that the dry well works, especially in Florida. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said this, but it just doesn't work. And more than likely, the irrigation guy did this, trying to help out the homeowner, but yeah, it's kind of a mess. So we're gonna go ahead and plumb all this together, and it's just a fun little install. So yeah, I mean, this is something you guys can do, and it's not hard, but it is when it's hot and it's sweaty and you're in a tight little space like this. It makes things, you know, a little bit more difficult, but I promise you that you can do this. Just take your time and you'll get it right. So with a little bit of work, you can get this to get together. Let's go over it. We've got channel drain coming out, 1.5 inch pipe, comes over, and we cord straight down into the corrugated. We've got the lanai downspout coming down. It comes in, and this is all going over to the sump basin. We've got 1.5 inch pipe. We had to come around this post where they've got the concrete. This was the real problem here, but you know, it's just something that you have to do. And I can see the pump just kicked on, and it's coming down through the line, and it's discharging out at the end. It's working really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour some gravel around here, because this is not a watertight fitting. It's not supposed to be, but we'll pour some gravel around here to help some of the water that does not come down from the channel drain. If it doesn't get into this pipe, it'll just perk down into the ground. And tighten this up a little bit, secure these with screws, and we're ready to backfill this area. So you can see how that pump kicks on. It just pumps all that water right out of that basin. We just have the garden hose in there, and we'll go ahead and finish trenching, cut the sod off, and it's just going to run right down there to the lake, and we're all done here. I mean, it's really that quick. So we're going to go ahead and backfill this area right now and get this all looking good, and we'll pour some gravel up there by the pool and eye like I talked about, and we're all set.
So again, in this tight space between the landscaping and the pool and eye, it's not hard, but sometimes you're going to be on your knees and you just kind of move around slowly. We don't want to break that screen, and we don't want to disturb those plants. So you just take your time, you pull back that fabric, and then you can easily pull the gravel back over just using your hand. It's not a difficult install right here, or backfill for that matter. Just pull the gravel over, set your stones back, and it's looking good. The excess soil, you just hose it with a garden hose, and it's going to disappear, and you'll have brand new stones. Let's pour some gravel up here like we talked about. This is so that as the water comes off of the pool patio, it has a place to drain also. We just want it to perk down into the ground.
Pour it all right here. And that's good.
Okay, remember how I've talked about using perforated pipe with a sock around it? There's so many applications. This is the most common that we use it for. What we're doing is I'm sliding this pipe under the irrigation, and it will slide it right into the pit. The reason I made that slice is because it's going to slide inside the 4.5 inch hole, and we will expand that, and it's very, very secure. It's very difficult to pull that back out once it snaps in place. But we just need a few feet that we can attach our French drain to, so that we don't have to disturb all of these irrigation lines. And because it's perforated, it will help collect more groundwater. Like I say, there's plenty of applications for this pipe. Slide it inside the pit, give it a little tug, and it will open and expand inside the sump basin, making it very hard to pull it back. Pull that sock back around, tighten it up, and this is complete. Next, we'll go ahead and hook up the remainder of the French drain, and this is done.
So one of the hardest things to do is to dig around irrigation, and especially when it's just saturated soil. So we're going ahead and we've got a piece of our easy flow over here, the French drains going back, and we're going to go ahead and hook up here to the sump basin right here, and we're almost there. We just got to clean out this little section here. There was an old piece of pipe in there, we had to pull that out, but we're looking good. So we've got our French drain installed. Chuck just washed off the area, so we've got a little water, but sump basin's installed. She asked us to put an adapter here for an outdoor sink, so we went ahead and plumbed that, and then wherever they add the sink, they can easily add to that 1.5 inches. None of that's glued, but they can easily, you know, adapt to whatever they want. Looking really good. Okay, now we're doing the discharge line, and you can see what I've done. Laid out the tarps for the excess soil. We cut off the sod, and we set that on one side of the trench. Always work backwards, and we'll continue this. You can see the line will follow that pipe. It's just going right out here to the lake. Still, you know, you got to take your time. This is the easy part, and we'll be done here in just a few minutes. Interesting note about St. Augustine, the grass. You see, this is a vine. You see that? It's a vine. This is how the grass grows. So a little bit more difficult to cut the sod, but you'll get it. And what's nice about St. Augustine is it'll grow back in a matter of weeks. So we almost got this.
If you followed any of our videos, you might remember about 3 years ago, we were at the neighbor's house, and I actually challenged the guys, the crew. There were 3 of the other guys and only me on one side of the discharge. We had a little race. Who can do this faster? You know what? It was pretty close. There are so many applications that you do not need to use the trencher. Doing this by hand, I mean, this took about 20 minutes. By the time you got the trencher, you know, went and rented one, or maybe you own one, but if you went to rent one, it would take several hours. This will be done. You can do this. This is not that hard or that difficult to do. And you don't need to put plywood out there. Plastic works good. If you don't feel like putting plastic out, just set that soil on the ground. You can easily rake it up, and you know, the next rain, any excess dirt is gone. The cleanup of your job, yes, you want to make it look good, but it's really not that difficult to do. Out here in the open, this is the easiest part of any install. You know, I watch a lot of videos and I see these guys putting in systems, and they've got all this equipment putting it down in the ground, but they're not in confined spaces. Do you remember the beginning portions of this video showing you all of the irrigation, all of the dirt, and we're just in a space that's, you know, 5 feet wide? Out here in the open, this is the easiest part of any job.
So back here in the lake, if you can see that, I'll try to zoom that in later. There's an alligator out there for all you gator fans. Can you see him? So you see our discharge. This is a pressurized pump coming out underwater, just because right now it's been raining so much here in Florida that the water table is quite high. This is normally, you know, that would be exposed. Okay, so we've got all this installed. The sod is going to settle nicely. Don't need to stomp it down or anything. In a couple days, you won't even tell we were here. And got all the gravel put back behind these palms. Everything's installed. Chuck's washing off the walk. You see we added some more gravel here. He washed off the walk. Looking really good. Most of the problem here on this property actually stems from the neighbors. Notice that they have no gutters. You see all the algae along his footer? Extremely wet. He had his irrigation on this morning, and you can see it. It's just full, just full. Overwatering. It's really, you don't need to do that, but this might be reclaimed water, so they just don't really worry about it. But what a nice little piece of property. We're all done. We've got our sump basin installed. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.